Tramp, or I guess Terry Tramp Welker, is the founder of Eternal Ink and is responsible, I would figure, millions of tattoos, at least. Do you ever put a number to how many tattoos you think that you've affected with your ink? I mean,
possible to make it. Our inks are sold worldwide, so it's like it's been 20 years, and it's impossible. I've traveled the world, and everywhere I went, I've seen my inks there, Eternal. And
yeah, I would it's got to be in the millions. I mean, as many bottles as you sold, and you can do hundreds of tattoos with a bottle of ink.
Yeah. Shoot, man, might be in the billions.
I guess we should start where you're at, because you are the founder of Eternal Ink Tattoo Supply Company, Eternal Ink Tattoo Tattoo Company, and also Eternal Ink, the actual ink, and also the owner of Motor City Tattoo Expo, right, or founder of the expo.
Yeah, well, I got Brian Everett involved in that. Brian's a partner with me on the Motor City Tattoo Expos.
Okay. Yes, I wouldn't actually not want to talk about him, because he's actually probably a big part of where I'm wondering where you sit today. Could you have imagined this at the beginning of your career?
No, not at all, man. I started tattooing in '76, but I opened Eternal Tattoos in 1980. I had, back then, you were cutting your stencils on acetate. You were hoping somebody walked through the door, man. It was a completely different world.
Right. There wasn't all the social media to get you any bookings. Was it common to even have bookings then?
No, I mean, once you tattooed somebody, then they would want to come back. But no, it was 99% walk-ins.
Where did you grow up, and was it here in Michigan that you grew up?
As a young kid, I was born in Georgia and was there until I was 6 years old. Then my dad moved us up to Detroit. So most of my life's been in Detroit. I've lived in Texas, still have property in Texas, but no, growing up was basically done right in Detroit. That's where I went to school.
It's a rough area, or were you out there in Grosse Pointe?
Back when I was a kid, it was a great area, man. I mean, we all rode bicycles and with baseball cards in our spokes to make noise. It was a whole different world, man. That's when everybody stayed outside till the streetlights came on. I'm 72 years old. I was born in 1950, so between now and then, the whole world's changed. It wasn't dangerous to stay out late. It wasn't dangerous to a lot of things. People didn't shoot you just because they didn't like you.
You've seen a lot of that change then in Detroit, which I'm told is on a renaissance right now.
Detroit.
But I'm told that Detroit is on a renaissance right now. I feel like I always hear that though. But the Detroit is one of the most improved cities.
Yeah. I mean, they got those apartments. They got those nice areas by the farmers market, I think it is.
Okay. Is it getting to be anywhere like what you remember it to be then?
No, actually, when we moved from Georgia to Detroit, we actually walked to Belle Isle from our house. So that's how different times were now. Belle Isle was different. A lot of people living in Detroit probably never been to Belle Isle.
Right, but you wouldn't be safe to tell a group of kids to do that.
I wouldn't suggest it. But,
no. But at one point, then you find tattoos. So I mean, Detroit was your home then, I'm guessing, because you have the Detroit Motor City Expo. Yeah. Well, I call it the Detroit Motor City. Everybody calls it the Detroit Show or the Motor City Expo or Motor City. But my wife has corrected me several times this morning. It's not the Detroit Show. It's the Motor City Tattoo Expo.
Well, it is the Detroit Show. We just call it the Motor City Tattoo Expo.
Well, they're good. Then I don't have to feel bad.
Actually, Dave Simon, who used to own Wonderland Tattoos, started the convention. The first year Dave Simon put that show on, I was there as a guest.
Oh, I thought you were the founder.
No, man, not the convention.
Okay.
So Dave Simon, who I don't even know if he lives in Michigan anymore, owned Wonderland Tattoos. And after the convention, he got a hold of me. We knew each other. Asked me if I'd be interested in becoming a partner with him. I said, sure, why not, man? So the second show is where I got Brian, Jack Rudy, Gil Monty, Dave Gibson, all that crowd of people that were
big heavy hitters.
Then at the third convention, I asked Brian if he wanted to be a partner. Then Dave Simon. I bought Dave Simon out after the second show, so we remained friends. I don't even know where he lives now, but so he was completely out of the convention after the second show.
And then it was you and Brian kind of heading this up.
Then we kept trying to find a bigger venue, and that's how it ended up in the Detroit Marriott.
That's like 1984, 85, or is this later on?
Oh, the first show was in the late I think 95 was the first show, 94, 95.
So how is it that you fall in with Brian Everett? He's an Arizona kid, right? And
New Mexico.
New Mexico. Okay.
So
And then a California guy like Jack Rudy.
Yeah. But Brian was originally from Michigan. So Brian came into my shop in Livonia and introduced himself and had started talking with Tom Renshaw, who at that time worked at our Livonia location. And
one of the greatest portrait artists around,
yeah, man,
Tom Renshaw.
Tom works at my club. Tom works at the Clawson location, Eternal Tattoos in Clawson. So anyway, Brian tattooed Tom at the shop, and I said, "Shit, I'm gonna have to charge him commission for that," And I didn't. But anyway, so I got to know. That's where I met Brian, and we became friends. And he rode motorcycles. I ride motorcycles. I had an extra bike, gave him another bike to ride. We hung out, got to know each other, and then over the years, we've become best friends.
You guys I think you told me at one point you live close enough that you can ride to each other's houses right now.
In Arizona, we both have homes.
Yeah.
In
are you in Michigan then still right now?
Yeah, man, I'm leaving early November. Once that snow hits, I'm out of here.
You don't like the snow anymore?
I didn't like it when I couldn't afford to leave.
Did you miss Georgia a bit every time it would snow, do you think, or do you not have a recollection that, I mean, as young as 6, that you leave, you don't remember a place maybe?
No, I mean,
I always miss I mean, like now, I don't know. Now I'm getting older. I like seeing the leaves change, but yeah, I've never cared for the snow. But man, it's hard to get away sometimes. Well, you yourself, you have a business here.
Well, you and your wife, you guys can come and visit. We got a guest room. I mean, you both know Gina, which Gina's part of the convention also. But you ever want to get away for a week, man? It's.
I shouldn't not mention your wife, Gina, because she's actually the part that makes it possible to talk to Tramp sometimes. If you see Tramp, he's got a stare that will look right through you. Do you know the power that you have just with a look, brother? Is this something you've been aware of?
I've been told I intimidate some people, but that's just because they don't know me.
You chewed me out once at work, and then you get done and you're like, was that like your dad yelling at you?
Yeah. Some people need to be yelled at.
I'm certainly not. I do myself. That's why I have my wife, though, thankfully. But your wife kind of softens up your image, I think, for you, because she is the most loving, happy. I don't think I've ever seen her not with a smile, ear to ear and cheek to cheek. But I do want to get back to when you came into tattooing yourself. Did you know at any point that you were going to be a tattoo artist? I know that you went to the war. Did you tattoo before or after the war?
No, I got my first professional tattoo just before I left for Vietnam. Came back and it was in California, and got another tattoo, not knowing it was being put on backwards, facing the wrong way. But who knew people still don't understand that sometimes, but
Right. And that was put on with an acetate then.
yeah, man. So
So,
no, I
right.
never thought I'd be tattooing. I never get, because it wasn't, even when I started, there was only two tattoo shops, House of Tattoos over on Wayne Road, and then at the flea market. No, then they had Mel the Head. You remember Mel the Head?
No, I don't.
He was over
Mel
on
the Head.
He's passed away, but he was yeah, whole
An old coot tattooing of sort. I mean, there was no regulations back in the
no
day.
regulation. No, you don't get a tattoo from Mel the Head, you were gonna get washed with a wash regular. If he'd done two tattoos that day, that water wasn't changed. But that's just how.
Were there gloves in practice when you started then?
No, I wasn't no gloves. And the needle was so good, he reused it. It was man, it was a different world. You didn't have all these diseases.
Right, right. Well, I wonder, were they there and we didn't know?
Yeah, maybe people that we were tattooing back in the day were a little more tougher and had tougher skin and maybe tougher. Who knows, man? Right?
Better immune systems. They weren't falling down dead when they left. That is amazing, because to hear the practices and to understand what we have to go through now as universal precautions, and you more aware of it than possible others because of your the manufacturing process.
Yeah.
Now we can't even go there. When you first started selling ink, I could go to Howell Tattoo Studio and we could buy some ink from you.
Yeah.
And then you got your warehouse, the first one.
Yeah.
And we watched that grow. And now I can't even tour the facility, right? Like you have to be in a whole hazmat suit.
Yeah, no, well, the clean room you can't go into because, this is what you said. You got to dress up and dress down, man. So we don't let anyone in. We have windows where you can come in, and we have cameras where you can, if we wanted to show it to you, you could come in the door.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to put all the proper stuff on, but you would see everything off of cameras.
Oh, so they do, because they have, of course, inspections, I guess, then. And that's the way sometimes they have to go.
Oh, yeah.
Man, it seems so drastically different than well, for sure, obviously. And you, when tattooing without gloves, when did you start using gloves then?
Probably back in maybe late 80s. I'm originally Eternal Tattoos was in Ypsilanti. I moved it to Livonia February of 82. I brought Chris Page on in about 83 or 84. So I had a two-man shop. Still wasn't wearing gloves. Probably must have been the late 80s, early 90s. I mean,
but at least were you changing water? Did you feel that you were advertising better than Mel the Head because you used fresh water?
Plus, I didn't have two Rottweilers laying on the floor. Mel the Head, when you walked in, you got to be entertained by his dogs, hoping they wouldn't attack you when you're getting tattooed. That's how it was,
It sounds like the Wild West of sorts. But I remember even in our town, there was the Mel the Head sounds like characters that I grew up kind of well, it wasn't 82 for sure, but 10 years after that. Oh man, 20 years after that, 98. That's when I first started seeing tattoos around.
MTV, man, MTV and the pro athletes getting tattoos that made that tattooing started taking off like crazy because of that. People seeing a rock star they like with a tattoo, and the pro athletes getting tattooed, and then next thing you know, women want a tattoo. And
you remember an explosion in your own business then?
Oh yeah, man, that's how come I put a circle around Detroit. I ended up with 5 shops, and I circled Detroit, put my shops between 15 and 20 miles apart from each other, but did a circle around Detroit. Trying to get my shops as close to the highways as I could, Livonia.
Mm-hmm.
Livonia's right down the road from 96. Taylor's right off Southfield and 94. East Point was off of Gratiot and 696. Clawson's off of 696. It's kind of making everything easy to get to.
Did you have the plan to to kingpin it, then it almost sounds like you're planning on making that town yours.
Well, it kind of, and then
It was like a gold mine rush or something of some sorts.
yeah,
You needed to stake a claim.
I was fortunate to have people, Jay Wheeler, phenomenal artist. He came to me right out of high school. Donnie Cox, phenomenal black and gray. He came to me out of the joint. But I was fortunate. I was fortunate to have the right people coming through my door wanting to learn the tattoo, because I tattooed every day, but I'm a traditional artist. There's so many tattoos I wouldn't dare touch or even attempt to do.
Right. When we think about that, if you're a traditional artist and your shop has sprung some of the most prolific portrait artists of black and gray of all time.
Yeah,
that's interesting. You got Tom Renshaw, Marshall Bennett, Bob Tyrell, Jay Wheeler, and I think you mentioned someone else there just a minute ago that you also said was a realism.
I've had so many, and I still have so many good ones.
I remember coming up that these were all names that we would see in the magazines, and to know that they were right down in Detroit. Like my tattoo my tattoo career didn't start off until my wife forced me to get a tattoo from Tom, and I kind of saw the bigger world of it.
Oh, Tom Renshaw did it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did a portrait of my father, and I was just blown away. You know the level of tattoo that he still does, but that he was doing back then, it was far above and beyond what anybody else was even coming close to.
In the mid-90s, when Tom came to Eternal, he came and got an apprenticeship. He didn't know how to tattoo, but I gave him the apprenticeship of making your own needles, how to build a machine. Tom wanted to go on the road for almost 2 years. He did back then there wasn't a convention every weekend, but Tom would do as many conventions as he could with the support of the shop behind him, getting him there, getting a room, and him getting the name Eternal out there, so that he helped get our name out there. And
okay.
He's back at Eternal. He's been back for now about a year now. So me and Tom talk to each other about it every day. But yeah, Tom focused on doing nothing but black and gray, and
and he was there at the shows with the purpose of spreading the name of Eternal.
Yep, under the Eternal banner, and doing his phenomenal work, and still doing it. Except now he doesn't do any shows anymore. But
now at that point, you weren't making ink, were you?
No, I was taking Spalding and National powder. I was doing our own mixing, and offered Tom and Chris, and I said, "Man, you guys want to learn how to make this ink?" They said, "No, man, it's too messy. You do a good job." I never had to do it. I made our inks. I did our mixing for us, and all powder pigment back in the day. So.
Right, but look what it spawned, though. Right?
Oh, yeah, that mixing the inks back then, not having a clue that you can make a living off of selling pigments. Who would have ever thought? Well, back then you didn't have a tattoo shop every other block either,
Right. Yeah, I mean, you were really poised for having your shops spread out like that across Detroit and in the circle. You were poised to then make a decent money off just your artist mixing ink. So then when you're ready to branch out and sell to all your rivals, did other people in town want to buy your ink, or was that a slow process?
No, once when I was mixing up powder, I mean, there wasn't any other shops around, but once I started Eternal Ink and got it going, I mean, I would give my inks out to I'd give my inks out to the shop I might have been crazy about it, but I still wanted them using my pigments. It was a business,
Right.
Using my inks, so.
Well, it's become, if they haven't heard of Eternal Ink, they're probably not a tattoo artist. If you're listening to Eternal Ink, you know that or if you are a tattoo artist, it's kind of the standard, the forebearer. It's the standard the other inks are compared to. even if someone else is talking about how much they love an ink, they will compare qualities of it to Eternal as a spectrum of it,
Yeah. Plus, I always made myself available. Somebody, I have my phone. If it rings, I answer it. So I was taking people's phone calls and people. Well, I didn't know I would get you to talk to, and I said, "Well, yeah, that's who you call to talk to, isn't it?" And so I always had that open communication with whoever it was, one had a question or needed something, or so I always made myself available.
Did the ink come before the supply companies and the machines?
A company, and that was in the Howell location, which you're familiar with.
Oh yeah, I worked there for 3 years. It's the longest job I've ever had. I had no idea, but I other jobs, even as a kid, I bounced around a year and a half here or there, hard labor type stuff, roofing. You never really hold the same job. 3 years I spent at Eternal, I believe. And I think that's the longest job.
We appreciated you being there. We finally got every station filled now, man. That was a long process. But anyway, you know how big the basement was. That's where we started.
It's awesome. Mm-hmm.
I bought the building behind us, and then I rebuilt it, and then a year later outgrew that. With all the conventions going on, that gave me the perfect place to market my pigment and get my inks out there. If there was a convention going on, Eternal Ink was going to be there. But then people would start calling, "Hey, you guys got needles? You got tubes?" No. But after so many times being asked that, I thought, I need a bigger building. So that's when I bought the building behind the tattoo shop that you're familiar with. But we outgrew
beautiful
that.
Shop. Yeah.
And once we outgrew that, then that's when I went and bought the warehouse that you've been to. And we've added on to that 3 times. We're maxed out on, we're at 40,000 square feet, but we're maxed out. We can't go back any further because of how the property's laid out. But yeah, man, it was crazy and how fast it grew. Well,
if you needed room, I think you could take one or two of your hot rods out, couldn't you?
Yeah, I had my playroom, man. Then I had to sit up because I needed more supply room.
Right. That keeps getting smaller.
Yeah, it came out with the needles and tubes and everything else. And it was a lot of fun building it, man. But, you've had your own business. You know how it gets. You become married to the job, man. You're 70 hours, 70, 80 hours a week. You're literally at the warehouse. And, people, then you would go to do a convention. I did a lot of conventions myself so I could tell people about my inks. And people would say, "Man, you're lucky you get to go to a convention." I said, "Man, I got to go to a convention every weekend, man. This ain't, you guys don't understand. This ain't fun, man. You're not, you're eating crappy food. You're sleeping in you know how it is.
I do. I do. I live it still. And I don't know how I do, except to really take the time off when I'm not doing it.
Because you're so
I couldn't imagine coming back and being a babysitter to a circle of shops, even if it's just the head babysitter, and then running the supply company. I know there's still drama going to be every day there. You don't have anything that has people involved and not have drama.
Oh man, I'm really fortunate with people that work for me, man. I've got some great employees, some great artists. I mean, the artists are all independent, but I've got some artists, man, that have been there for over 20 years.
Yeah. How long has Stelly been with you? Stelios has been 20, 23, 25 even.
I think, probably around 99. So yeah, 20 years. Jay Wheeler was 20 years. TJ, Doug Vick. I mean, it's just, I'm pretty fortunate, man. And then when I had somebody that
Marshall,
I was always fortunate enough, I'd say, man, that's going to be a hard chair to fill, but I've always been fortunate enough. The next guy coming in was just as good as the guy left or better.
Well, something about Eternal's name in the way you position. I'm guessing now that it's the way you positioned it and the way that you spread the name. It made people want to work there. Like if you worked at Eternal, that was a hiring process for me. When I was running my shop in Flint, people came to me who had come from working with you. They might even been on the outs with it, but if they mentioned your name, that pricked your ear up like, oh, Oh, it was Eternal Tattoos, huh? That's where you were working.
Yeah.
Well, now you got a quality artist here.
A lot of artists that came on board when they would come in, especially our Livonia shop. You had Tom Renshaw, you had Jay Wheeler, you had Bob Terrell for a short period of time before he went back over to the East Side shop. But you had about four top name artists working out of the Livonia shop. My son was working there, and you had all these artists to learn from, and every one of them was willing to share the information to make you better, man.
That's something that was new. They didn't do that in your early start, was it?
Back when I was tattooing, number one, you couldn't hardly find anybody to tattoo them. To get any information out of them was impossible.
Right.
But a funny story is when Bob Terrell came on as an apprentice, we were still making needles, doing certain things that we wanted the apprentice, an upcoming artist, to know how to make their needles, how to build a machine. I'll tell you what, man, Bob Terrell, I love the guy, but when I was trying to teach him how to make needles, it was almost impossible. I said, man, when I saw his portfolio, when he came to ask if we would apprentice him, it was, Bob Terrell. When Bob Terrell's portfolio just tells you right down there, you definitely want this guy working, So I figured
you don't want him building the 7 mag, huh?
Yeah, man. I said, man, it's gonna be a waste of time to teach you to make needles. Because number one, there you can buy the pre-made, and I know that's what you're gonna do. So for you to make a needle, that ain't gonna happen anyway. So his apprenticeship skipped right over needle making. And
there started during the Brandon Bond, he made some videos and he explained you could learn how to make needles, but you could learn how to make better tattoos. Or you could learn how to build a good tattoo machine, or you could buy a good tattoo machine and make better tattoos.
Yeah.
There was a logic there. I think it's been applied several times over now. We see so many specialized artists, some people that have never even tried anything that they weren't inspired by. They didn't have to do a Tasmanian devil in their life.
Yeah. Well, different times.
Speaking of different times, I kind of want to keep going back because it amazes me that the number of people associated with Motor City Tattoo Expo in the fashion that, when I first went to my first Motor City Tattoo Expo, it was when I decided to be a tattoo artist.
Right.
And I had actually kind of got I picked up somebody's machine. Man, I wish I knew who it was. I wish I had the idea to even have my eyes open. I was just there as a collector, or somebody the guy that tattooed me. He was like, come down here and try and win me a trophy. You'll be my friend. And I picked up a machine and I said, oh, wow, how much for the gun? And that changed everything in that conversation immediately. That guy grabbed it out of my hand and said, it's not for me, and set it on the table. Yeah, I'd called it a gun and I didn't know. I had, what was that?
What year was that? Where was the show at where were we at when you came to the first show?
I would say it's probably 99, 2000.
Were we still by the airport?
It was at the airport. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, man. Yeah.
That was early. And what number would have that been if it was around 98, 99?
Well, we were at the airport until our 10th year. So right now we're doing our 27th anniversary in first weekend of March next year. So 27, I think the first show.
Awesome.
But anyway, we moved out of it was the Royce, and they changed the name of the hotel to can't remember the name of it.
The one by the airport.
Yeah.
But you guys outgrew that. That was a meandering hallway of things. Now you're at it.
Conventions were crazy, man. People partied down and wanted to tear the hotels up. We ran some heavy security at that convention just because of that. People jumping off the balcony into the pools and
oh man.
Craziness.
Was it Was it anything that you would get fined for or have to pay for at the end when you're settling up with the hotel then?
Well, I had it. I made sure I had insurance, but no, it was. I couldn't, I couldn't control the crowd when they're serving them the drinks. The hotel's serving the drinks to them.
You can blame them on it. It's not my people. It's your drinks.
Yeah.
Tattoos associated with kind of, I think that was what I felt when I went there, was I wasn't the weirdest person in the room anymore. I didn't feel like anybody was looking at me, because there was so much craziness going on.
Yeah.
Or available to see. There was plenty of, I shouldn't make it like everybody was insane, because, there was a lot of people just doing business and doing tattoos. But Gil Monty, for instance, we end up getting that guy, that character. I think he did a 15-minute tattoo on my wife, took about an hour and a half, and we got a show. It was like dinner and a movie.
Right. Yeah, Gil's a character too, man.
How do you run into Gil? Was it through the tattoo circuit? And
I called him. Come to find out, he used to be a Marine, so we had something in common, and invited Gil up, and then not knowing that he was as crazy as he is. Yeah, he came in with the crowd with Jack and Brian and Cap, who was Tony Olivas, who just passed away.
Cap Zmunsky, then you mean too?
Who?
When you say Cap, do you mean Cap Zmunsky, I think the name? Or
yeah.
Okay.
Was down in his he used to work for Brian, then he moved to Georgia. Cap Szynski, or Polish name.
Yeah. He brought up a couple of friends of mine. I believe that Craig Foster is kind of got a lineage associated with Cap. And it's just amazing how sometimes you can hear these names. There's no real written history for people on tattooing. And we, until you ask, you never find out, the long lineage that might even be like Rick Cherry and of I don't know. It just seems to go back so much. Ornofsky also, Rick Ornofsky. Am I pronouncing that name right? Are you familiar with out in Green Bay?
Oh, you talking about Rick?
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it Ornofsky as well?
I know it's another Polish name. No. Yeah, Rick's I got to know Rick pretty good, man. I think he's still doing it. I know he's not doing the show.
Right. No, he's not doing his show.
Yeah, his sons were involved in his business.
I think I last seen them at Detroit. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he was in Detroit. It's been probably 4 or 5 years ago.
So as you see the show going on, if it wasn't, what made you want to be a part of the show as you were being approached?
Oh, well, when the first show they had, I took Tom Renshaw and Chris Page up there, and we set up our booth. And I was headed to Bike Week. And I came back and heard how crazy the show was, how many people and everything. And I thought, well, shit, man, maybe I should have hung out here, man, because now realizing that that first convention, there was thousands of people there, man. They couldn't even fit into the hotel. It was so busy. But
oh wow!
I thought, what a great opportunity to I'm going to open another shop up and let more people in the Detroit area. The Detroit people is what feeds our artists.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much for Tom Renshaw and a few of the others, because their clients come in from around the world. But you figure a guy like me that's basically going to do walk-ins, and people need to know where we're at so they can get to us to get a tattoo. Then once I got in with Dave as a promoter, it just gave me the opportunity to promote my whole company, all my artists. I just saw it as another move to expand what I was doing.
Yeah, I see that it's definitely did that. Each one of these things, now, I mean, you see them, they flow right into the next.
Yeah.
And they make perfect sense. There's not so much room for that anymore. It's everything's kind of changed. You have to really work to be on the forefront of technology now.
Right.
Or are you guys still building machines?
No,
I know I used your rotary there for a while, and then the pen started coming out. There was like everything exploded there, you know.
yeah.
A whole new market shot up.
I think I don't know if I'm bringing it up now, but with my ink company, I ended up selling it.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, what portion? You still retain portions of it, right?
I'm invested in it. I'm a consultant. I own a property, so I'm there. I have Gina's office is there. My office is there. I'm up there when I'm here for the summer. I'm normally there 3 days a week. But it would my tattoo machines. I loved my machine shop because I could make anything I wanted, including motorcycle parts, car parts. And I had two CNC machines. I had 3 Bridgeports. I had two CNC lathes. I can literally make anything you wanted. I could make it. But then because I was focused mostly on coils, I was doing most of my 90% of
oil
my
tattoo machines, right?
yeah, my tattoo machines were coil machines, and that's what I tattoo with, and so I had 5, 6 different frames, liner, shader, whatever you wanted, and we were cutting all our own. We were cutting our frames. We were cutting our armature bars. We were stamping our springs. We would literally be doing everything except for we were even doing our.
Winding coils.
No, I was buying coils from out of state. But they were all American made. Everything. My machines were 100% American made. Contact screw, everything.
Right on. Even the contact screw. Welker tattoo machines.
Yep. And so it became to a point where once again, the ink business was continuously growing every year. And it was like, man, we need more room. So it became,
oh man,
the only thing I took all I had that one section, like you said, with my hot rods. So I took my hot rods, moved them, opened up the area as much as we could. And then the only thing left to do was a business decision, was move the machine shop to a different building. And so we can expand our mixing. And at that time, I with my accountant looking at numbers and what our machines were doing, they were doing okay, but not nearly.
Not like the ink.
Not like the inks and the needles, man. So we shut her down, man. And then once
heavy heart.
I'll tell you the story is that this is about the ink company. So I was in China. We had to go every 2 years. Any ink manufacturer that was paying attention to anything would go to Europe because they had tattoo regulations were being made over in Europe. They were going to come here to the States. So I'm in China at a convention. That's a weird place to go to a convention too. And I get a phone call at 3 a.m. There's time differences, like 24 hours difference time.
Now, is this a tattoo convention then in China, or this is some? Okay.
And these Chinese people said, "Man, we want you to get up there and tell them you own Eternal Ink and that you was a Marine in Vietnam." I said, "You want me telling this crowd of Chinese people that I'm a Marine and fought in the war in Vietnam, and these guys are going to want to come up and hug me? I don't think so." Anyway,
do you think they wouldn't have, or did? What happened?
They all wanted them like I was a celebrity. It was weird, man. It was me. Brian was with me. It was crazy, man. Everything was good except for the food. Anyway, I get a phone call. It's 3 a.m. And I see it's my son. And I said, "Hey, Jess, what's up?" He says, "Dad, the FDA's here." I said, "What do you mean the FDA's here?" "The FDA's at our door." And I said, "Yeah, well, what do they want?" He said, "Well, they want me to walk them through want me to walk into our building and blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Just tell them I'm in China, man." I said, "Get him on the phone, man." So they get on the phone. I said, listen, I'm in China. I'll be back next week. What do you want? They wanted everything. Want to know where I get my pigments, where I get my bottles, where I get everything. If you don't comply with us, we can lock you, we can shut your doors. I said, shut my doors. But it was just crazy, man. Anyway, came back, got with the FDA. They came back. They stayed there. They were in my building for 5 days. Did all these inspections. Everything worked out fine. But
did they have a laundry list of complaints then, or did they come like unsolicited? I don't see why why do they show up?
Because the thing is, tattoo inks are going to be regulated more so now than ever. They're going to.
Yep. So you were right to say that the ink was the regulations from overseas were coming here as well.
Oh yeah. And right now, if we had some countries in Europe, they can't get colored pigment because of some of the things that are in pigments that they don't allow. And so we got, we're continuing.
Reformulate or?
Yeah, reformulate, man. So, but it just took the whole, I was almost 70 years old. And then I'm out of the parking lot one day and dealing with some other crap, man, 70 years old. I'm thinking, man, how much longer do I want to do this? I'm not, they're taking the fun out of it. It's becoming.
Well, you already lost your machine shop. It sounded like that was a cold day in hell for you almost.
So these lawyers and an FDA attorney, shit, they're very, very expensive. The whole thing just became, where the thrill was, they were taking the thrill out of the whole business, and had to make a decision, man. And I had a company that's was wanting to buy my business for 2 years prior. And I called him. I said, hey, man, do you want to come and talk to me? I'll talk to you, but I got a number. If you want my business, that's what it's going to be, this number.
There's a company, a pretty reputable company inside of tattooing currently. Am I wrong? I mean,
we own now Bishop Machines is part of it. Tat Soul's part of it. Kingpins. We're all under one roof.
It's like a necessity, I'm guessing, because the next is legislative actions too. And now is it that can you see that ink is going to need lobbying?
It's going to be what?
It's going to have or need lobbying inside of Congress and Senate.
We've been lobbying for before I sold it. And it'll be 3 years in December. We've been lobbying for 4 years. It's just more political crap, man. We've been using these pigments for, tattooing pigments for numerous years, and they just want to control it. They want their cut. They want, there's no getting around it. It's the government.
Do you remember a character, a tattoo artist named Joe Satterwhite?
Who?
Joe Satterwhite.
Where was he from?
He was from Flint. He tattooed down in Georgia at one time, and I believe he worked with Tattoo Charlie's too, possibly at some point. He flew around a bit. He was in the war as an airplane pilot,
right?
Or not pilot, but mechanic. And his brother also, Dave. They both rode bikes, but they were tattoo artists. He was a tattoo artist, and he started a shop, and I was working for him while the regulations were coming up.
Right.
And I was I thought that I saw the benefit to it. And he said, Kyle, even if there is a benefit to it, you kind of need to fight these things, because the change that comes next is a red light or a beacon on top of your industry. And what they start out charging you the first year will double by the next. And he wasn't wrong. And from then, I don't know how much I lament it. I guess I imagine that I hope there's some good to come from it, you
got our company is better equipped for to handle that kind of stuff.
That's the good that I hope that
And then you start I had to go to Washington 3 or 4 times, man. The senators that wanted these bills passed, you would go there and talk to their staff. And so you definitely want them to know that you're paying attention, and you're not just going to close your eyes and hope it goes away, because that's not going to happen. So you gotta be willing to do it's a lot of money, man. You're paying these attorneys, you're paying the lobbyists, but it's what you have to do to keep moving forward, and keep to take care of the industry. A lot of people in the industry don't have a clue what not just Eternal, but all the other ink companies. They're all, we're all in the same boat.
Right. You're affected by the same water.
All want the same results, man. So it's not one company's going to get it and the others aren't. It's
Have they defined what they don't want in the inks then?
Yeah,
so now.
Yeah, and it's a big. It's jumping through hoops. You can resolve what they don't want, and then 2 weeks later they find something else they don't want. So it's an endless game, man. Fortunately, in the United States, we're not we don't have the same guidelines as they do in Europe. That doesn't mean we're not going to,
Right. Have you had a hard time shipping then to Europe?
Well, some colors you can't ship to Europe right now. We're it's a process of getting everything recertified. We have a chemist, a part of our team. We pay a chemist. He's part of our team. He gets paid, and
this is kind of actually maybe the best time to not have to be so closely involved.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't just, right now I'm leave for the winter. I'm gone for a month, come back for a week, gone for, and it'd be hard to do that because what's going on is a daily, you might
Fight.
have to,
right.
Stop what you're doing and go back to the drawing board. And when you think you got a pigment that's going to pass, and then it comes back and it's one little thing wrong, then you got to start over again. And it's not impossible to do. It's very time consuming, very expensive, And the artists, you have to raise your prices. You might, bottle of ink might have to go up 50 cents a bottle. And some artists can, 50 cents. I said, yeah, 50 cents. You make a couple $1,000 off the top. You're complain about 50 cents. But some, and most of us get it,
Yeah, I think we have to, especially if it's with so much research and development. And what I saw, or I can attest to, there was a building. I mean, we used to be able to go into Howell, just like I said. Then you bought the place behind you. We could go there and we bought ink. It was easier because we didn't have to bother Stelios. Steli didn't have to give me mean shadow eyes. Like, hey, what the fuck you doing? Just go buy your ink and back. And then we could get out, and then the factory or the warehouse. And then that thing grew into a compound now, and you can't even tour it.
Yeah, then I did that clean room. That was a 2-year project. To build that clean room was literally 2+ years to make it what it is. It's the nicest clean room. I mean,
now before that,
we're doing a video.
Did you have to outsource to another clean room or something? You had to bring the product there.
We had a clean room, just not a certified. We've got a certified, inspected,
airtight,
man. I mean, it's an expensive. I mean, I'm not going to tell you numbers, but it's a very, very expensive to build a clean room. We're what are we over here? We're 4,000 square feet. I mean, you can build a clean room in a room, 800 square foot room, but you're not going to be able to do what we do, because that's what we're doing.
Right.
It's,
you're not going to be able to do it on that scale.
Actually, if I would have thought about it, I would have invited you down. I mean, you could have stood there and you could have actually seen the clean room. You still can, but
it's all cameras.
If you wanted to do it, when we're done with this, we'll talk and we'll set up a date, and then you can see the whole thing. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. That'd be fun. That'd be fun. I'll try and get it in before you. I know you're feeling the cold weather come.
Yeah.
There's no more bike riding. Is that what now? But now you have, I guess, I mean, that's where we're at now. And we've talked about where we were. So what's next? What's next for you and what's next for tattoos? Do you see everything that you've seen change has been pretty drastic from.
Oh man, it's so hard now, man, just because you got so much talent, man. You got, back in the day, if I seen another tattoo shop open a mile away, I said, oh man, there's another shop opening by us. Now I don't even care because the hell, I'm going to sell them supplies, But,
Right.
there's just so much talent. I mean, the younger artists realize that they can make a really good living doing what they enjoy, and there's just so much talent that was out there that graphic designs, people that had this phenomenal,
Abilities, right?
A good artist is gifted to be able to draw the way some of these people, including yourself, man. To be able to draw from your mind and put it on a sheet of paper or a canvas or whatever. That's a gift. That's a gift from God, man. Because I can't do that. I'm a flash artist. I can't take somebody's design and just put it on paper and put it on them. If they want a nice traditional tattoo, I can do it. But
I see these kids nowadays, they are, it makes it hard to even think about competing. I was on that Ink Master show and now their talent level, like I couldn't even go back. I couldn't even imagine going back when people ask me, because I'm like, do you see how good these kids are?
And how they prepare it, how they get their iPads and they transform this over this, and then next thing you know, the design's coming off a thermal cover, whatever you use, thermal cover or printer, and whole different. You're like, man, I don't even know how to do that. I'm past the acetate. I can do a thermal copy and all the other stuff and lay out a nice design. But man, there's just, like you're saying, man, there's just so much talent out there.
That they got the ability with the color that they use. I've seen tattoos people put down as a stencil that I'll see, and it just looks normal.
Yeah.
And then when I see what they did with it, my mind's blown.
I know, man.
Really, really talented kids. A lot of it because of the work that yourself and others like yourself have done in pioneering and getting the name, in getting your name Eternal out, and getting the name of the ink out. You also got tattoos pumped out, and you were showing us stuff that was done with your ink that was far beyond what the average tattoo was thought to be. Especially with the color portraits that started a whole series of colors of them. Where do you see yourself now? Now you just putting around with on your bike with your card in the spokes?
I got all Harleys, man. But
you don't need a card.
No, I don't need no baseball. Man, baseball. If I had the baseball cards I had back then, you know how much some baseball cards would be worth that I wrecked.
Well, you wouldn't have had to make the ink company, maybe.
But I could have made a living off my baseball cards. But
either way, you get to drive into the sunset with putter.
Yeah. No, so I'll be heading to Arizona. Like Brian's there for the winter, I'm there for the winter. So we do a lot of stuff together, man. Do a lot of riding.
Well, what's that consist of stuff? Is it? I'm curious how much like your childhood this has become. If your dream of riding around with a baseball card in your spoke turns into a dream of carelessly riding around on your scooters.
Yeah.
What do you guys get off into doing? Just sunset riding?
Fortunately, we both like to ride, so we got our. We're out in the we're in the high desert, so you're limited to where you can go unless you're going to go on a 2 or 3 day ride. Like right now, we're going to leave Havasu, go over to the Zion National Park, and Bryce Canyon. It's a 1,200-mile ride, so we should be able to do that before it gets too cold. Where we're at, we can ride all year, but once you get in the
mountains a bit.
the eastern part of Arizona. I mean, you get up by Flagstaff, I mean, you can hit some bad weather there. So
Okay.
where we're good for riding all year. Go back east toward Flagstaff. You don't want to ride over there in the wintertime because you don't know what it's going to do. Between
You
riding,
never need these things. They're all air cooled pretty much. Do you never, in that hot desert, do you need them to be liquid cooled ever?
no, man, no, you can ride them all. You can ride them just the way they are. But then I like to fish, which Brian doesn't like to fish. So I can have my boat in the water in 20 minutes and spend the day out on the lake and enjoy that.
Oh, that Lake Havasu then?
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Gorgeous then. I imagine it's everything you dreamed it would be then as a child. You were fishing then too or not?
Yeah, man. I'm from Georgia. I'm a country boy. Yeah. So
Do you have family in Georgia still? Do you ever go back?
we just buried my oldest brother, so I was down there. We spread his ashes. I was down there a couple months ago. So my other brother, I had three brothers, but one of my brothers lives in Hawaii. My younger brother lives in Florida, right next to the Georgia border. So yeah, I still get down there.
Sunny area. Well, I really appreciate you sharing all this with me, brother. And I feel like I should let you get off to your busy day. And I'm going to get off to my retirement enjoyment.
You've been around Eternal long enough and worked for Eternal, which was great. So you kind of got to see certain things, actually progress and where we were and where we're at.
I've been blessed to be a part of it and to see it grow like that and then become a part of it. Yeah, it was awesome. And to have a relationship with you where I can say, hey, make my podcast seem legit. Give me about an hour of your time. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
Hope it goes good, man. And tell Candy we said hey, and we'll talk to you later, man.
All right. Take care, brother.
Later.
Thank you.